Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into one of the most dramatic and consequential moments of the conflict, the damage to the Crimean Bridge. As dawn broke across the Black Sea, the massive span that links mainland Russia to occupied Crimea stood as a testament to power, engineering, and control. Now it lies scarred, its structure fractured, the steel girders twisted, and the road yawning like an open wound in a land already steeped in division. The sun rose on a scene ruled by smoke and shattered concrete, the signature of sudden violence in a place meant to embody permanence. There's a tremor in the air of geopolitics, a silent alarm bell ringing across capitals. In Moscow, officials hastily convened emergency meetings. In Kyiv, commanders leaned into maps and satellite feeds, eyes bright with both dread and opportunity. And all over the world, analysts and citizens alike asked the same question: what happens next? When you look at that bridge, you don't just see steel and asphalt. You see strategy, risk, defiance. The damage was more than an explosion or missile strike. It was a statement. A statement that lines drawn on a map can be challenged, that supply routes assumed invulnerable may still buckle under pressure. Soldiers in fatigues move through the cracked approach, boots crunching on the broken edge where the road ends and there is only a chasm. The wind carries a chill of uncertainty. On one side, the defenders of the bridge know this route links them to armored convoys, to fuel, to reinforcement. On the other side, the attackers know that severing it, even temporarily, tilts the balance, makes the far side feel farther, the supply lines feel thinner. And so the tension is both immediate and strategic. Inside command rooms, the mood shifted last night. Around a circular table, maps and feeds flickered. Generals and ministers spoke in curt tones, voices low but heavy. The one who is accused of orchestrating this strike, he paced rather than sat, headset tight on his ears, phone in hand, eyes darting to screens showing the damage live. His face, briefed to the world, showed strain, a leader grappling with the sudden blow to his prestige and control. A face that had projected strength now looked shadowed and wary. Meanwhile, in Kyiv, the opposite mood contorted with adrenaline and relief. A long-planned operation had landed a decisive blow, yet they knew full well that vengeance or escalation might be on the way. They did not cheer. They prepared. Because when you hit the bridge that binds territory to a power center, you change more than geography. You change narrative. Across the shattered span, vehicles burned, black smoke curling upward at the edges of the blasted supports. Drone feeds hovered above the scene, capturing the damage from angles the engineers never intended. A highway sign twisted. Trucks lie abandoned. Concrete blocks cracked open like eggs. Beneath it all, the sea roared, indifferent. The tide climbed, indifferent. Nature's rhythm kept its pace, while human ambition smashed through shapes built for permanence. On the far side, the soldiers guarding the approach gathered side by side. Some stared out at the carnage. Others checked their gear. They knew their world had just shifted in an instant. The supply convoys might no longer roll freely. Their communications network might be under scrutiny. Their reinforcements might arrive late, uncertain. And then there's the human dimension. A convoy driver from months of grueling road missions stops his engine just 500 meters from the blast site. He covers his face with his hands. He remembers late nights crossing the same bridge, the hum of the tires, the guard towers. Now the bridge haunts him. Back in a little village on the peninsula, wives and children waited for husbands and fathers who may not return on time. Soldiers wrote brief messages home. Bridge blown. Waiting orders. In Kyiv, civilians watched news bulletins and whispered among themselves, gripping their phones, afraid what this means for winter supplies, for energy, for what comes next. The world beneath the headlines is fractured. The world above the cables and command desks is recalibrating. There is the immediate military calculus. How do you rebuild the route? What alternate supply corridors exist? How long will the disruption last? Will the opponent respond with counterstrikes that escalate? The political dimension is tangled. From Moscow balconies to EU capitals, statements fly. Denials, promises of retaliation, talks of sovereignty and aggression. The bridge damage becomes a symbol of vulnerability in a fortress image, a crack in the narrative of invulnerability. For Kyiv and its backers, the moment is both triumph and test. Will this blow shift the momentum, or will it stir a backlash that brings more horror? In the evening light, an officer sits in front of his laptop in a makeshift field command tent. The glow of the screen silhouettes his face, weary but alert. He repeats the orders: secure the perimeter, reassess supplies, monitor drone responses. On the other side, in a Kremlin-adjacent war room, a Russian general addresses a group of ministers. They examine satellite imagery of the collapsed section. A map is projected. Red arrows show convoys rerouted. Blue lines indicate reinforcements. They speak of forced adjustments, emergency logistics, strategic patience. But behind the words, you see tension. You see a system forced out of its rhythm. That's what this is about. Rhythm, supply, momentum. War is as much about the daily beat as it is about glory and headlines. And when you break that beat even briefly, you change the narrative. Night falls. On the edge of the ruined bridge, soldiers stand watch beneath floodlights and the flare of emergency beacons. The air smells of diesel and dust, of cordite and salt spray. They're freezing tired, alert. A drone whirs overhead, capturing the outlines of the gap. The murmur of nearby civilians floats in from the far shore village, children whispering over kitchen tables, elders watching the glow of TV screens, women clutching their phones. In the capital, foreign leaders issue statements. NATO chief, heads of states, ministers. They speak of unacceptable escalation, urgent de-escalation, respect for territorial integrity. And yet each word carries meaning, each pause a warning. Because one bridge doesn't just connect land, it connects stories, narratives, futures. What happens next is the open question. Will a temporary bypass be engineered under pressure? Will the damage become a long-term bottleneck, sucking resources dry and forcing a tactical shift? Will the attacker move in to exploit the disruption? Will the defender lash out in retaliation, perhaps across entirely new lines? The tension is high because no one wants to blink first. When you strike a vital link, you tell your opponent that their foundation is vulnerable. And at the same time, you reveal your own nerve, that you are willing to pay a price, accept escalation, risk backlash. For the local populations, the scene is both surreal and cruel. A mother in Crimea looks at the empty trucks and wonders when the next supply will come. A father in Kyiv watches satellite footage and wonders if his side has gained an edge, or just invited chaos. In the flickering light of the command tent, a soldier updates his live feed. He writes a short message. Bridge down. 97% confirmed. We're monitoring convoy delays of 48 hours, awaiting next order. The message is terse, logistical, almost clinical. But behind it is anxiety. Because the war does not pause, and windows of opportunity often close fast. And thus the big picture looms. This strike becomes more than a tactical hit. It becomes a strategic moment. It echoes across the region, across countries, across alliances. Will it become a turning point or a provocation? The world watches. As dawn breaks again the following day, cranes are lined up, engineers approach the site, and repair units mobilize. The defender tries to restore the artery. The attacker watches, calculates. Every action becomes a message. Every vehicle that rolls, or doesn't, speaks to who controls the map. On television screens around the world, the images repeat. The shattered span, the sea beneath, the road that ends abruptly. The symbolic weight is heavy. For some, it is proof of resolve. For others, it is evidence of recklessness. For the people living on either shore, it is real and immediate. Supply lines, lives disrupted, fear of what comes next. In the icy winter light, the scene feels cinematic, because it is. The slow turn of a camera, the puff of breath in the soldier's mouth, the red glow of flares in the night. It's war, yes, but it's also narrative. It's about who controls the story. And today the story has a new chapter. The bridge that once symbolized certainty is now a question mark. The armies adjust, the leaders pace, the civilians wait. The world holds its breath. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates.